Hi, Bettina.
Hey, can you hear me? Oops,
Yep, I could hear you.
here's my video. Oh my God, I finally made it to a meeting again.
Well, I feel I've missed a couple. Well, we didn't have one last week, but
Yeah,
two
I
weeks
know,
ago I
and
was
because
sick.
I missed the one, I tried so hard from Hawaii to join in, and then
Mhm.
I actually almost did. My group plan changed the plans on me, and I would have been on for the first 10 minutes if the Zoom had worked right away.
Yeah, well, it's the way it goes, doesn't it? When you're in
It
Hawaii,
is. I
it's a
know, we
rough
tried
life.
our best.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Indeed, yes.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Bettina, how you doing?
I am doing good. I'm good. I'm back in Dallas for a little while, but I'm heading back to Park City another week or so. So we had Thanksgiving in Park City, and then we're gonna have Christmas in Park City. So
Back
both,
and forth.
yeah, I know. It's this. I'm so tired of it. My husband's retiring at the end of the year, so we'll be in Utah, I think, a lot more after that.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, I'm hoping we're getting our house ready so we can get it on the market at some point soon, not too distant future here in Dallas. And so,
How's the housing market there in Dallas?
in our little neighborhood is it's crazy. Yeah, we sold our sort of our larger house, and that's when we bought the house in Park City. But then we moved into a little townhouse around the corner, and it's construction all around us. Like literally around us, there's construction at almost every house. Crazy.
Yeah. Hi, Neil. Neil and David.
Hey,
Hey, you're up in the space station today.
yes. Overseeing all that there is on Earth. And
Awesome. Awesome. Well, today I think was supposed to be our speaker, David. I don't know that I am not aware of anybody getting a speaker lined up. So I think we'll just have an extra day. I did have an article on AI framework benchmarking that Margaret sent me that I can summarize in a few sentences, but I'd love to pick people's brains about benchmarking and how it's being used. We'll give people a few more minutes to get on. Everybody have a good Thanksgiving?
Very good.
Great.
No crazy turkeys blowing up or anything like that.
We cheat. We order a smoked turkey from this farm in Vermont. We've done this
Oh,
several years now. It's absolutely delicious, called Dakin Farms. So it comes frozen. It's pre-smoked. All I do is heat it up a little bit, and it's the most juicy, tasty turkey I've ever had. It's crazy good.
that sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
My mother-in-law likes the way I smoke turkeys, I guess. So she keeps asking me to make the turkey. So
Ooh, well, you can do it yourself. That's awesome. It takes a lot of time though.
it takes a lot of time. It's an all-day thing.
Yeah,
Starting at
absolutely.
5 in the morning on Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah. Hey, how did you guys like Mike Parrish when he spoke a couple weeks ago? I listened to the recording. It sounded like it went pretty well after he finally got started.
Yeah, I liked him a lot. I thought it was
Good.
really good. Good topic, a good presentation.
Oh, good. I'll give him that feedback.
Okay. Well, we've got a crew. Got 7 of us on here, or 6, not including my note taker. So let's get started. I think I mentioned earlier that I think today was supposed to be a speaker day, but we don't have a speaker unless somebody's arranged for something that I'm unaware of, which I'm perfectly fine with. Go ahead and do it. So I think we just have a discussion about where everybody is with AI and what we're doing. And I can kick off that discussion with a review of an article that Stanford. These I don't know who they are. They're from Stanford University. I can even share my screen. That they have done a kind of a meta study on AI benchmarks, and so I think this falls into the governance and maybe even like selecting AI tools that we want. What do we want to look at when we're trying to determine what AI framework to use or what models to use. Sorry, for our different situations. So the basically the abstract is that they notice that nobody has a good framework for evaluating the benchmarks of AI benchmarks, and so they've gone through and created an evaluation criteria. I think they have 46 criteria that they've kind of distilled out from interviewing experts and seeing what other people are doing. And then, yeah, 46 best practices, and they evaluated 24 AI benchmarks against it. So I guess first off, the benchmarks, I want to kind of poll everybody. Is anybody using benchmarks in their AI work now to help them understand and select and govern their AI systems?
Yeah.
Does anybody has yeah has anybody had experience using benchmarks in other governance type situations in IT in your systems, like benchmarking other systems or different things like that? I'm speaking from theory here. I don't have a whole lot of experience benchmarking, other than, I would do some rather informal benchmarking when I'm selecting a system. Like if I'm selecting a new vendor or a new system to bring in, or if a client brings me a system, I'll run some benchmarks on it to see about performance and different things like that. But generally speaking, in those cases, I wouldn't necessarily call what I'm doing a benchmark, but it's more of a kind of a standard like performance test that I'd run, or trying to profile things. So it's a little bit different than what I think a
More like
classic benchmark would be.
more like load testing. That's the type of thing that I've typically done as well. Is let's go test our upper limits, but on AI, it almost seems like we have to test the hallucination percentage and things that are like a little more tougher to test because it's not like you were saying earlier. There's not been a benchmark because what do you test? How accurate is it? That's a tough one to gauge.
Right. Plus, your application is going to be different. Like everyone's application's somewhat different, right? So yeah, I'd be curious to know what sort of criteria they drew up to do this. So
Let me post this link in our chat just so that everybody can go grab it. And I'll be honest with you, I skimmed this very briefly, so we can crowdsource it. We can look at it and see. But yeah, that's kind of what I was intrigued me about this, is that they've standardized an approach for evaluating the benchmarks, which is, and then a benchmark is a way you might have a certain benchmark you look at in terms of hallucinations or something, and so you need to select your benchmarks correctly in order to then evaluate the actual system that you're going to be implementing, the model, or however you're going to work through that. So Yeah. So then what are those criteria that they use is kind of what I was getting to there. But
Now, a chance to, it sounds like you haven't reviewed it quite yet because I noticed it's a university study, which
yeah,
tends to be more theoretical, ideal scenario versus tactical. I can throw this into my process and use versus, kind of the abstract, which is okay. I mean, nobody's done it, so I think it still has value. It's just, I noticed it's a
yeah,
university study, which tends to have to be adapted to that tactical side is what I found.
yeah, yeah. It might not be as directly applicable in a pragmatic sense. Um, so I agreed there. Yes. Um, I'm going to skip down here and see because yeah, some of these things I I'm not super familiar with even um, in terms of what they're actually doing. So let me skip down and see if we can get some of the results.
I do appreciate in one of the graphs. What page am I on? On page 23, they evaluated Hella Swag. I don't know what that is, but it's got a good name.
Yeah.
Machiavelli. I've heard of that one.
So this is their design score for each benchmark. Okay. So these are the benchmarks. So Hella Swag is a benchmark. MMLU is a benchmark. Challenge. Machiavelli. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I wonder what that's about. Um,
Sorry, I'm late. What are we doing?
we are evaluating this document. This is a benchmarking study produced by some students and professors at Stanford University. So I'm going to go back up to the top. Yeah, better bench assessing AI benchmarks, uncovering issues, and establishing best practices.
Cool.
So, and I shared the link in the meeting chat, and we're kind of just crowdsourcing it because I didn't have a chance to go through and prepare stuff.
Well, have we all watched the new pro stuff and all that?
The new pro stuff.
We haven't talked about that yet.
Okay.
It only came out yesterday, Sean.
Yeah, some of us have already upgraded. So
Have you really?
yeah, I had a really big thing I needed to get done. So yeah, I'm on the pro version.
Larry.
200
Like
bucks a
I have
month.
what?
200 bucks a month, right?
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm smart. I just had something that I done that if it's done right, it was worth 200,000 to us, so it was worth it.
Nice.
Anyway, I got to get this call back. Just a sec.
So that's the new OpenAI subscription.
Yeah, so OpenAI is coming out with their 12 days of Christmas. They're not calling it 12 days of Christmas, calling it 12 days of OpenAI. And each day they're going to release something new for the next 12 days, starting yesterday. And some days it'll be a big present that you get to open up, and sometimes it's a little stocking stuffer. So yesterday was the big present of ChatGPT Pro, which ChatGPT 4.0, the latest version, was more like high school, physics, advanced math, high school. Well, the Pro version is more like PhD research level. So that much better, faster, able to, if you're a researcher, you need very, very fast processing, and you need more thinking and more accurate Chat GPT Pro is what they're saying you'll want. But again, they're going to $200 a month for that.
Yeah.
So it's in true drug dealer fashion. They hooked you on the cheap stuff, and now they really cost you.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if it's like Sean said, this gives you $200,000 worth of value for a $200
Well,
expense. That's seems like a good investment.
does anyone know if that will allow you to do? Because one of the things that we've talked about here is, it becomes expensive to do on an enterprise level. Does that allow you to have more runs and potentially use it, or do you have to go to an enterprise pay per query subscription regardless, or does this kind of bridge that gap, or does anybody even know yet?
Yeah, I've got the pricing screen up, but it doesn't say. They still have their enterprise option, so it looks like.
Well, and just seeing the unlimited access is what caught my eye. Is there a way to leverage the pro version to actually not have to go enterprise? You have a handful of pro users. Does that work out better than trying to do even a team model? Interesting.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting question. Because it starts to get really expensive, right? When you start adding all your users in there. Cool. Well, I'm sure Sean will have more to say once he gets off his call, and we can share that. Does anybody have other topics they want to discuss? Or, I mean, I'm fine. I don't mean to hog the microphone by any means. We'll get down to the results again on this and see if they.
Of course, I have to leave right when the ship miss stuff has been all explained, but here we go.
Did you want to share anything more about the Pro? Like, you bought it for a specific reason, and it sounds like it delivered for you, or?
Yeah, that's actually, so I have, I had to document some work that we did, and so I had to basically coalesce 2 years of emails, which was about 50 emails, summarize all of them, and then also about, I think it was 22 transcribed meetings, and put them all in order, and then build a summary of all of that, and then use AI to then explain the narrative of where we started to where we got in for the U.S. Senate, and Basically, when we started working with them, they're like, here's this wonderful piece of software that we want you to extend. And we didn't, and all of a sudden they're asking us to build on top of a system where you click a button, it takes 5 seconds for it to load, and it was built in WordPress. And we're like, what is this? And so we said, hey, you know what? Let's switch it over to a .NET View, an actual modern, application that would be appropriate for this type of thing that this is. And the guy that was the contracting officer was like, yes, go for it. I give you full approval. Here's an email, blah, blah, blah. And the next day he went on vacation. And we're like, that's the weirdest thing ever, that we didn't have to go through this major formal process. So we start working. Well, by the time he gets back from vacation, we had outstripped the actual money that they had funded for that, and everything was supposed to go through POs. So for the last 10 months, we've been just trying to just back out of all of this thing. It's been just a nightmare, because this guy was a cowboy, thinking that he could sell it after the fact. And he didn't even remember what he agreed to by the time he got back from vacation. I mean, it's just been a nightmare. And so we just had to truly get all the documentation of how we got where we were and everything. It did really well on following that complexity. So
So was it a volume thing that you needed Pro versus Plus, or was it the model working that much better?
I have no idea if I actually needed to use Pro versus Plus, but I ended up with a 36-page document that went through all of this different summaries and everything. And I was able to basically grab that document and then put a dialogue of exactly, kind of a summary of all the summaries of kind of this thing into 2 pages. And I just don't know. And the thing is, I wasn't doing a parallel activity, so I'm not sure how good it would have done in the other models. O1 especially, seeing that it was the first day that it was out, was not the fastest model in the world. It certainly thinks a lot, and it's, so it's like, okay, you hit go, and then you're going to want to go get a cup of coffee, which I don't drink.
So basically, you got the $200 version, so you could show up at the AI SIG and say, you're the first one who has it. That's what I'm hearing, right?
Yeah. Well, I was hoping that today, when they said today's talk would be more for for developers, that it would be something that wasn't just given to an alpha group, and that it would have been something for ChatGPT, but it wasn't, right? So that's too bad as well. Did you guys see today's?
No.
I have not.
So today was something called a reinforcing training module. It basically is, it's a way to train their models to get them better. Like, you could take O1 Mini and make it better than the Pro version for your specific use case, with just a very small training set on top of it. And it's called Reinforcement Training Module, RTM, or something like that. And so that, and they're just expanding an alpha team. So far, it's been like biology people at Stanford and people like that have been using it so far. Yeah, so they're
Real quick on your process for feeding all those emails and text files into it. I've not been a user of that particular platform. do you just drag and drop? Do you have to convert it all to text? Do you have to, how do you
Well,
run?
that's interesting that you say that. So O1 Pro also does allow you so the O1 model alone, you don't have the ability to see any add-on, any text files attached currently. But the O1 version that does allow images. So whenever anything was backed up by like Excel spreadsheets and those types of things,
Uh-huh.
I just basically was able to take screenshots and feed those in and those types of things. But to answer your question, yeah, I just cut and copy and it was mind-numbing work. Yeah,
So essentially, if you, it's the equivalent of some of the Acrobat stuff where you can convert all of your 50 documents into one PDF and then let it loose on the one PDF, but you still have to do that upfront work.
Yeah, well, the process that I took, actually, if we want to get into that. So the very first thing that I did is explain the situation.
Uh-huh.
And then it said, oh, well, you should do this. And I said, great, make me prompts for all of that. And so it said, okay, the first few emails, you should use this prompt. And then for the rest of the transcriptions and the emails, you should use these prompts. And then you should use this prompt as the one when you have everything together to then knit it all together. And I just followed the process that it created for me. Um, and that worked really well.
Interesting. So you basically told it, tell me what to do. And it said, okay, here's the prompts that I would use. And then you just fed it each group of information.
Well, it first said what to do, but then I told it to make it into prompts. So yes,
Yeah.
and then I just followed the path that it produced exactly. Yeah. Um,
So
yeah, and just I had to break it into monotonously small pieces, you know. Well, some email strings had, 10 emails in them but it did it all fine. Um, and yeah, I've already lowered my plan for to a more reasonable. And I have teams here at work pays for, so I'll probably, I don't know, we'll see. We'll see what I do after this. It's hard to give up my own history and stuff as well. And that's the hard part with ChatGPT is that if you've used it a long time, you can just
Yeah.
search on any topic and it'll pick up old things that you've done in the past. So anyway, neither here nor there. First
So
world problems.
how did you with that much data, that's almost kind of on the border of more data than you can hold in your head. Like did you then do some quality control on that? How did you assure that, that 30 some page summary was accurate? Did you just do a spot check here and there, or did you do
Not as
something?
much as you would think. What I really did the spot check on um, was then looking at the final document that it created and then giving it the view of, okay, now what you haven't said is the fact that we deployed all of these resources, we built all of this stuff, and now they've actually given us a purchase order for $140,000. But at that point, he said, "Oh, by the way, if you accept this, all software has to already be working." And there's about 60,000 more of work to just knit everything together. And I was just so shocked that he would say that. This is a government official, right? That I didn't argue. I was just like, what? And then the PO came, and so this is my next comment after that, basically. And so now I took that dialogue, and now I'm just going and just reading very carefully at this point and just saying, Yes, but look at it this way, and and so now it's more making it a factual and persuasive document at this point. But before that, I don't care for the other 35 pages to be persuasive. They're just this happened and this happened and
Yeah,
this is
just the
an
timeline.
and
I
if they
know.
want to look at any specific day, the actual transcript, no problem. I got them.
Yeah, that takes. I mean, I imagine that's an immense amount of time because I've done that process with some clients in the past, and it's just time
Right.
consuming.
So if I would have, so this came out yesterday and I was done and I did work quite a bit last night and it was done, it came out what 11 o'clock yesterday and it really wasn't available until probably 12:30 and I was done with the bulk of it by midnight and really done a few minutes, like an hour ago or so. And it would have taken months otherwise. Um, yeah, yeah,
Just pulling everything together manually and then summarizing it.
right, yeah. And
That's
plus, in the
cool.
pay, there was no way to really transcribe, let alone that part. The fact that I have 3 years of all of the conversations recorded and transcribed. Um, it's
Yeah,
another very nice thing to have too.
that goes back to the data, right? If you didn't have that data, you'd have been
Right.
up a creek.
Yeah, I mean, how can you support your claims then?
Yeah,
Yeah. And this is only from my view. I haven't gotten the emails from all the developers, from the designers. I haven't done that. And I'm not sure I need to, but I can if I have to,
yeah.
This is just every time that I've sent anything or had a meeting with them personally to get this dialogue together.
Cool.
Anyway, it's not the best use case. It's just my personal woes, you know. Yeah, I've been at the company 11 years. I've never had a situation like this. And I've been working on getting federal work forever. And this is really the first one, and it's killing me. So, and I literally have a $140,000 PO that we've already done the work for that I can't accept. And that's really hurting me.
Well,
It should be
thanks
200
for
now.
sharing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it should be. Um, cool.
And my wife hasn't seen the purchase yet.
Well, I won't tell her.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other examples? I mean, I love that example as a way of increasing personal productivity. And I think what you said is essentially it gave you an ability that you just wouldn't have had otherwise. Like there's no way you would have been able to pull all that together. Um,
Well, but that goes for all of my proposal writing in general.
yeah.
Uh, a great and absolutely awesome thing, and I hate saying this because some of you are my competitor and you guy. The best thing ever to do is you have a sales meeting with someone and record it, transcribe it, and then when you're done, say, create an SOW based on this meeting. And it just builds the whole darn thing and it's great. And you're like almost done right from there. Just
Yeah.
change fonts and stuff. It's so good at that.
Now, what tool is this exactly, Sean?
I use Otter
Use Otter for that.
for the recording and transcribing.
Yeah.
And the Utah law is that only one person has to know. So you don't have to tell people. I just tell people I'm taking notes because
Mhm.
that's all I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
Otter, and
heard
I've
it's a,
used it.
yeah.
I have probably close to 3,000 meetings recorded now.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because I mean, especially when you're talking to clients, they give you so much information, and I type as fast as I can. That'd be so much better.
Yeah.
What about like the proposal writing? I heard there's some new tools also just to write proposals and really, or just you can take your existing proposal and run it through there, and it makes it that much better. Have you tried that before?
Mm-mm.
Mm.
No, I've been working with some companies in the AI side that specifically are building the ability to write proposals for federal proposals, which are a lot harder.
Yeah.
Then you're dealing with, 10 different PDFs, and one of them might be 200 pages long, and with requirements all over the place, right?
Yeah, we've had responses. I mean, just for the staffing side, but there was for the Texas Department of Information Resources. I actually wrote that proposal and we won that bid. But then there are 200 other people that won the bid, so it didn't really turn into
Right.
that.
That is when the organization just cops out like that. When oh, you won an opportunity to fight for more work with 200 other people.
Yeah, and they actually doubled the amount of suppliers they accepted. So we were like all excited we won, but they didn't eliminate anybody. They just added 100 more.
Yeah. And that happens in a lot, both in federal as well. There's one called STARS 3, which is an 8A program, and it's C Gen anyway. That they have 1,800 people on that one project, and, for the Navy, and you're like, boy, thanks, great, I get to
Is this
compete.
the state of Utah or the federal you're talking about?
Federal.
Federal, okay.
Yeah. We're on the knowledge services contract here, and that's the main one that we use for the state.
Hmm.
So we're a tier 1 supplier for the state of Utah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, that is but that's a great, it works wonderfully. Just record your meeting when they talk about what they want, or things like that, and you can create proposals from exactly what they say pretty readily.
Yeah. And you've spent time. You've shown us that in the past, your GPT, where you've kind of trained it the way you do things and the formats that you
Yeah,
need.
but I'm not even doing it that way anymore, Guy. Now I'm just
really?
saying, here's the recording of what he wants. Just give me a proposal based on what he said.
Nice. Okay.
And yeah, I mean, yeah, it's anyone can do it now. It's not that hard. There is another thing that I would say that I've been using recently in my honing, and so that it becomes more human. There's just a list of like 30 words that are telltale signs that you're using AI. And so now I just say, just don't use any of these words. And it works around, and just because you're limiting it so much, it automatically kind of sounds more human than because of it.
Yeah.
But I also turned that off yesterday too. So, because it was, I think it's a brand new model. We gotta see how this one writes without any of that.
Well, here's a question that I have. For example, in doing those proposals, I've asked it even to do estimates, right? So it pulls some numbers out of the air, and I found them to be terribly wrong, at least based on my numbers as a company. And I haven't taken the step to formalize my numbers and put them in to either some sort of a RAG or some sort of a training. But have you gone to that level, or are you still kind of...
One that I just did for another client, and I'd never sized anything myself. And I was kind of shocked when the developer actually said, yeah, actually the numbers are fine.
Wow.
And that was with 3 different transcriptions of 3 different meetings we had about what they want built.
Okay.
And a couple emails that I think I threw in there as well. And then I just said, okay, just build me a proposal based on what he says he wants, and and do a really nice executive summary, whatever it is. Um, and but that's a very anecdotal answer, though, right?
Yeah.
It's just because it worked once does not mean anything.
No, and that's, I mean, the best practice for estimating is that I've seen anyway is to have projects that are similar to what the scope is you're contemplating, and then you do your best ground up, and then you do a cross comparison and say, okay, this is what it actually took. Are we in the same ballpark? And are there, if you're not, there has to be very specific reasons why it's either more or less than what you actually performed on the previous
Yeah.
project.
And I used to be very much more anal about our proposal costs than I am now. But now when we start a project, the very first thing we do is a very formalized discovery session. And part of the proposal is letting them know that at the end of the formal discovery session, that is paid, by the way, we will then be able to provide a much better and a full idea of what it, we'll be able to tighten the estimate.
Yeah, exactly.
To something that's much easier to stand behind, because and that, so because of that, that's just the way that we approach projects. It does help that, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, no, yeah. I think that would be, I think that's best practice as well, especially in the agile world where you discover
Yeah,
and learn a lot.
and I would say it's almost like we waterfall the first at least the first delivery of, whether it's that first thing that's actually usable or they can get out to the market. That much we try to get really as much understanding so everybody can agree what we're building before we start. And of course, then it still changes, right? You still embrace the agile after that, but at least everybody agrees what you're doing, and that's what that discovery session provides.
I find it interesting that this is a problem that anybody who does proposals and has to stand behind those proposals has, right? Making sure they have reasonable estimates. But I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I've
don't, I
never
don't,
created a proposal until this year, and I've been here 11 years. Not personally. We had project managers do all of that before.
oh, okay.
But now with AI, I'm able to do them no problem. But I could not before. No way. I wouldn't touch it.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. I know there's lots of ways to skin the cat.
Well, it doesn't mean that I'm doing it right, but yeah, but we have doubled this year, so I guess something's working.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Diago, you and Bettina, you guys both work for service provider, but I think you end up having to stand behind your proposals pretty regularly. Do you have, well, what I'm I guess surprised or just interested in is that it hasn't made sense for me to go through that effort to put all my, even though I'm like, oh yeah, this would be really good, but all my project results, preparing the data, getting them into a format that I could then either use a RAG type of a thing or use some sort of AI to help me generate more accurate and faster proposals. Are you guys doing anything along those lines, or are you still kind of just like looking at it? I don't.
I just heard about it. My boss was telling me about it. We needed to, there was a new tool we should try because I actually write most of the proposals for my company because I came from Xerox and we did a lot of proposals there. And but for staffing, it's kind of, to me, it's always kind of flaky because you talk about how good your company is, but then it comes down to the individuals they want to hire and then they want to price
Yeah.
range it. But again, it depends on how much the individual wants. So it's all kind of you can give them a
So
pretty
Yeah.
good range, but then the best they find something that's great, they're above the range, and they still might want them. So it's kind of goofy, actually.
Yeah,
okay.
and for staffing specifically, I
Yeah.
don't even consider those proposals. That's more of a fill out. Okay, there's what we're
Oh, no, no, no. I write a 100-page proposal for these
well,
contracts.
I'm talking about for an individual, not
Yeah, for
for
individual, I do have like a one-pager exactly.
yeah.
But
Uh,
if we just had one with one of our clients, and they went to RFP and they basically renewed probably 4 of us, and then they added 3 new ones and got rid of some old ones. So they kind of weeded out, use it to weed out people or
yeah.
suppliers.
Not that different on my side. Like I write 2, 3 proposals every day, and we have a
Oh,
lot of
wow.
accelerators that helps us out, especially to calculate the time frame and team to staff a project. So depending on the type of project, the projects that are more common, like cloud migration or data governance, data migration, or platform implementation, we have a lot of tools that we built internally that help us uh, quantify the effort by roles, hours, and according to the scope and volume we are working with. But
Mhm.
for an AI perspective, we use a lot of Copilot to help us with the definition of the scope. So to actually write the content of definition and to define the job descriptions, which are 2 components that are very important for all of our proposals, right? So we use a lot of Copilot and Bedrock from AWS. And we have partnership with the major platforms, and they have sessions with them when they brainstorm together. So, okay, so let's use our tools to synergize 2 proposals, right? So Microsoft Fabric comes with the part number, we come with the service. So we work with them and say, okay, guys, let's make one proposal so the client doesn't have to work with different vendors, right? And we use all sorts of tools that, but most of the work, so I'm not fully satisfied with what I get when I ask Copilot to say, hey, build a proposal for me or any other tools. I still think there's a lot of room for improvement there. But for the definition of the scope, like objectives and role job
Right.
descriptions, those 2 components, they do a really good job. Save us a ton of time.
Yeah, and I would say that I'm simplifying my process a lot. One thing that I find that I'm doing is I I don't just ask. It's not a question and answer machine to me. It's a no, 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 I meant this. No, and I look
Iteration.
It's a
back and there's
conversation, not a one. Yeah.
and yeah, and it can be 50 times back and forth before I'm pulling it out. And I would say one of the biggest things that everybody should do is use speech to text when you're talking and just talk to your LLM. Do not type. Typing takes way too long. If you want to iterate fast, just talk. It's so much better. And it'll figure out the misspellings. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
Just ramble a little bit.
that's one of my when I have to commute, I put on ChatGPT and I just talk to it and get work
Yeah.
done that way. It's it's actually pretty. I was amazed the first time I did it. Like, wow, I got through. And the key thing for me is a lot of this is thought work. So it's having something that is at least semi-intelligent on the other end coming back to me saying, I mean, I'll ask it questions. I'll say, hey, I want to do this. What do you think? And it'll talk back to me with some degree of intelligence, of insight. And I'm like, wow, okay. So then I start to riff on that and we start going down those other
My
paths, and
my
then it records it all, so it's really nice.
my son-in-law just got he just left the military and has been looking for a job. He was in medical services and he used ChatGPT and just used it to practice interviewing. Okay, you be the interviewee, or I'm the interviewee. You interview me for this type of position and be hard. And he just would talk. And yeah, anyway, it helped really prepare him well. And I've also heard of salespeople that will basically practice their sales techniques into ChatGPT the same type of way. Okay, I want to sell this type of service, and you be a customer that needs that, but don't be an easy sale, or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Training purpose is very, very useful for sure.
And are they trying those with like the live video analysis, or is this all text?
oh, you're just using the enhanced voice in ChatGPT for
Okay,
that.
interesting.
This is just something to do while you're driving instead of listening to a book on tape.
Huh.
The except maybe across the point of the mountain, depending on your phone, it might mess up.
That's true.
It comes
Good
back though.
connection.
So integrating these tools, Sean, you've been pretty transparent that right now these are mostly tools that you've learned to use at your company. And Thiago, it sounds like you guys have some integrations at a team or company-wide level for what you're doing. Is there a feedback loop, like
Well,
next steps for each of you?
well, that's interesting because has anyone played with the model control or MCP, whatever that stands for, inside of Anthropic, and start building agents through that? So that is really cool. So now you can make it so that Anthropic can use the internet. You can make it so that it actually builds. It builds a whole. I said to it the other day, okay, I want to build a testing platform that does this and does that, and it went out and did it all in Git and did all that, and then did pull requests against it and all of that just by talking to Anthropic.
Yeah.
And so that's available now. And then there's there's a bunch of things that you can do, and it doesn't cost anything. You just extend. Well, it costs the $20 a month, but so you just extend all of that. So that's another fun thing that just came out in the last 2 weeks, I think, is the Anthropic Claude. So you just do it right inside Sonnet 3.5, and it'll do that.
My homework for the week.
Yeah, and those tools, they are so similar and so different at the same time. Right. So one thing that I'm noticing is that we should try them all and see the best use for a specific use case, right? So for Slalom, for instance, because we have a lot of people, we create a Power Automate tool just for the prompts library. So because the answer is always as good as the question, right? The most important piece is the question, the way we ask the prompts. So we create a prompt library, and people are putting content there on a daily basis, and it's very, very helpful. So instead of thinking about the question by ourselves, we just use this prompt library, and this has been very helpful.
Yeah.
And of course, we have our own internal chat GPT. So instead of opening tickets and all those things, I'll just ask ChatGPT to do that for me. That saves a lot of time as well. We do the same thing with Gemini and Bedrock. Like we just use them as much as we can, so we can provide to our clients the benefits and pros and cons of each platform.
I downloaded and got a new IDE called Windsurf all set up, which is an IDE from Codium. And when I finally got it all working properly, the first thing I asked was create a to-do app that in a very modern framework with a really nice look and feel and blah 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 blah, and just hit go, and it totally created the whole thing. Just works. And then I'm like, okay, now add tags to and it just built it. I was shocked. course, I haven't developed in so long. I don't know what to do with it now. It's just running locally, and it's just like port 8,000 or whatever. I mean, anyway.
Yeah.
But it was cool.
What tool is that?
Windsurf, but it's
Yeah.
you could do it still in Visual Studio as well these days. But this is just one that Codium came out with. And there's Aider as well. That's another one that is supposed to be pretty good. They all have little idiosyncrasies, one from another, but they also can basically do the same thing as well at this point.
Nice. Well, very cool. This has been fun. I love that we developed at least it's been really interesting for me, but it's also like from those of us as service provider consultants, this is a very interesting conversation, but also we've talked about like, how is AI actually getting into our companies, right? Are we getting to that point where we are AI enabled, where we're executing AI strategies and gaining benefit and real market advantage from it?
Well,
So,
yeah, I mean, I really think, and I've said this many times, 2024 was all about the passive AI. 2025 is going to be all about agents and actually the AI doing stuff for more and more people. And that's the Anthropic just was the first one to market with that type of thing. We already know that OpenAI is coming out with a product called Operator that is going to be very similar to that in capabilities, from my understanding. And then, of course, Microsoft just came out with theirs a week ago or so as well. So,
yeah,
yeah, buckle up.
That's for sure.
very good.
It really hurts that I'm not really a developer anymore. So I'm just I just play one on this show.
You pretend to be one with your AI buddies.
Something. Yeah,
Something
I
like
don't
that.
know. I'm, my wife says I'm on the computer too much, but it's because I am on the computer too much. Anyway.
Well, thank you so much for contributing. I think it's been a great session. Anybody else have anything to add or last minute comments, questions?
I would say one last thing. Every day, 11 a.m., just go onto YouTube for the next 10 days of weekdays. And that's the OpenAI thing that starts at 11 a.m. every day, and it's normally between 5 and 20 minutes, depending on what they come out with. And you probably, but if you just stay the first 5 minutes, you'll realize if it's anything you're interested in, you can just turn it off if it's not. So
it's just the OpenAI YouTube channel, or?
for me, I just go into YouTube and it's automatically there. But you can just go to openai.com and it's right on their site.
Oh, okay, cool.
And I just have an alarm for me that 10:55 to just, if I don't have anything else going. And today I muted it while I was on another meeting, and then I just backed it up and caught back up on what the changes were. So and they're calling it Giftmas, I think is how they're saying it. And,
yes, I love it.
and 12 days of new features that they're adding is what it is. And the first one is when they came out with O1 and O1 Pro. So, and now because they came out with that, there's Christmas gifts my kids don't get.
Well, I'll post the link to the 12 Days of OpenAI playlist on YouTube.
Oh, awesome.
So, okay. Well, thanks
All right,
everybody.
thanks,
Have a great
guys.
weekend.
Thanks again. Have a great weekend too.
Thanks.
You guys,
everyone.
good
See you next
weekend.
week.
Bye-bye.
See you later.